we need to address an important topic, which is, what is the best wheelchair for me? And that is an important question and a complicated answer, but I will try the best to answer it. Hold on. All right, so this is like a Goldilocks question. The answer is not too big and not too small either. So let's look at the questions that come up in regards to wheelchairs. You know, what type is best for me? You know, or a loved one. You know, is it manual or power? And it all depends on the ability of that person. Their pain, their condition. I've seen people in manual wheelchairs with their knees almost in their face. And their footrest was adjustable. So I've had people, you know, I've had to look for somebody to adjust the footrest for that person so they don't have their knees in their eyeballs. So that's what I'm talking about. It's a Goldilocks question. You know, you don't want it too big, you don't want it too small, and you want it adjustable so that, you know, you can adjust the footrest, you can adjust the armrest, you can adjust the seat in some cases. So that's really important. The weight is also important. How much does this person weigh? Because wheelchairs go according to weight. So, you know, are they young? Are they older? Are they able to propel themselves? Do they need a power wheelchair? Do you not want them moving at all in that wheelchair? It just depends. So it depends on age, on health, on ability. So that is what you really have to consider. And it's not an easy question to answer. You just have to really talk to a physical therapist and see what's going to be the most helpful tool, because a wheelchair is a tool. It's not to enslave somebody. It's a tool. So we have to consider that. What are the key factors to consider when buying a wheelchair? Well, comfort, adjustability, user mobility, portability, that's important. Environment of use, durability, weight, capacity, maintenance, budget, insurance. You know, how are you going to pay for this wheelchair? Is it going to be through insurance? Is it going to be on your own? So comfort is really important because that person might be sitting in that wheelchair for a very long time. So you want to make sure that they're not all cramped up or swimming in the wheelchair, and you want it to be cushioned and to avoid, you know, sores and all that kind of stuff. You know, I use cushions in mine. I spend a long hours in my wheelchair, so I do have a cushion that makes things a little bit more comfortable for me. We did it through insurance, so we didn't have a way to transport it, but later on for the house, we got a van that can transport wheelchairs. So environmental use, I told my therapist I wanted it to be outside and indoors. So both indoor, outdoor type wheelchair. So they gave me wheels that would not mark up the floors of my house, but would be good for also outside and had treads on them. Durability. You don't want to get a lemon, folks. You don't want to get some used wheelchair you don't know where it came from. Truly. Durability is important. I had a friend who purchased a wheelchair, a lightweight wheelchair for travel, and then she wanted to use it every day, and of course it kept on breaking down. It was breaking down because it wasn't made for her weight, number one. Number two, lightweight transport wheelchairs are not made for all day long wheelchair use. They're not. And she would get mad because it would break down. It's like, I said to her, that is not made for everyday heavy duty use. Not. So don't blame the company. You have yourself to blame because it was your choice. So you have to choose wisely. Weight capacity, of course, wheelchairs go in 250, 300, and then it goes up to 400. And then if the person weighs close to 400, you're going to need a more specialized wheelchair to support that person's weight. Maintenance, all wheelchairs from time to time are going to need a little bit of maintenance. For the most part, if you get a good brand, a good company, it should have warranty. The frame of my wheelchair, it has a 5-year warranty. So little things here and there have happened, and I've been able to fix it, free. So that's the good thing. So you want to find a wheelchair has good warranty, not just 6 months. that's not a good signal. And the budget, when you go through insurance, the weird thing is that you end up like it's a renting situation, so you pay per month for 3 months, so 90 days, you pay per month, and then the insurance gives it over to you because they want to make sure that's the wheelchair that you're going to stay with and that you say you don't change your mind. And so it's that kind of thing. So that you have to rent it for the 90 days, and then they'll turn it over to you so you can finish paying up the 20%. So it's that kind of thing. So pros and cons of manual or power. There's really no pros and cons of either one. Each one is very different. Manual wheelchair, you have to propel yourself or have somebody push you. So you have to be capable physically to propel yourself if you're going to be independent. Power wheelchairs, you have to be able to cognitively be able to steer and not run anybody over. So a power wheelchair is a strong instrument. Has 2 batteries, 2 strong wheels, and casters to keep it balanced. And in which one are you able to maneuver? Which one are you able to handle the best? A manual or a power? Manual wheelchair, ultimately, after a few years of using a manual, your shoulders are going to start to break down. So, power wheelchairs have been sold more and more, but of course, the transporting them is difficult. So you have to consider that. Manual wheelchairs are easier to transport, especially those that fold up. So you have to consider one and the other. What features should I look in for a wheelchair? Now, wheelchairs these days are adjustable. And you do want to find a wheelchair that can be adjusted. So the seat, the armrest, the footrest, because we do change, especially if this is a young person, you want that adjustability. So seat padding, back support, armrest, footrest, all of that needs to be adjusted. It's just like this person that I saw in a manual wheelchair, and she had her knees in her face. I was like, good Lord, that's not right. And her footrest was adjustable. So I went to find somebody, and I said, hey, could you help me bring down these footrests on this wheelchair before she pokes her eyes out with her knees? It's like so because she was a very tall person and needs a wheelchair. So they brought him down, and now she's comfortable. She looks good in the wheelchair, and so she doesn't have to wiggle around and try to get comfortable. She is comfortable now, with the footrests at the right height, which was much lower because she was very high, very tall person. So you want that adjustability in case, that needs to be changed. What are the differences between rigid and folding wheelchair? The rigid usually are the sports lightweight wheelchairs. They have rigid and they have folding, and the transport wheelchairs, which are much lighter. There are rigid, but there also are folding. The folding takes less space. You can put them into the car easier, and for your lifestyle, what fits depends on your age, depends on your ability, or who you have around to lift it up, put it in the car, or can you do that on your own? So it really depends on your physical capabilities, if you have family around or not. So that's important to consider, rigid or folding. What are the best wheelchairs for specific conditions or activities? Individuals with limited mobility, for outdoor use, for sports. It depends on what sports they want to practice, and it depends on the type of mobility. This usually is defined in the person who can help you best in deciding what is the best wheelchair for your condition would be a physical therapist. You want to make an appointment. If you have one already, great. But that is the person who has the wisdom in saying, okay, for your condition, usually we choose these wheelchairs because, your age or your current condition or what you want to do in your life for sports. So you can do sports in power wheelchairs and you can do sports in manual wheelchairs. So you can do sports in either one. Just depends on the sport you want to choose. It really depends on your condition. I have fibromyalgia, so with spine conditions, usually fibromyalgia creeps in. And the problem with that is using manual wheelchairs, you got to be careful how much you use the manual wheelchair. Otherwise, you're going to trigger your fibromyalgia. My shoulders are bad, so I cannot continue to beat my shoulders to death because I'll end up having surgery for something I already knew was in bad shape. So that's not my answer either. So the therapist said, I can't recommend a manual wheelchair for you because of your shoulders and the fibro. So let's look at power wheelchair. So, then I was concerned about the transportation issues. So we did talk about that, and the house was willing to get a van. So we did. And so that's worked really well. It's just we don't have a driver every day, all that kind of stuff. But we have a van. So so you have to consider those details around the type of wheelchair you get. Is someone driving for you? Are you driving? That's also a question. Do you want to switch your car, change your car for an accessible van, small van, minivan, big van? I don't know. So you have to consider transport. But for specific conditions, really, you want to assess that along with a therapist. I couldn't tell you because I don't know you or you or you. I don't. I know my condition, and I know that a manual wheelchair would be, I can use it for short moments, short periods of time, but not long ones. So would it be easier to transport? Of course, but they're not going to let me do that. And my therapist wasn't going to let me do that either. So a power wheelchair, it was. So I have a Jazzy Select 6. It's been great, and not an issue. I do get around just fine. So those are the answers I have. I'm hoping this was helpful in choosing the right wheelchair for you. You know, the correct size, for the correct weight, for the correct condition, for the correct way to transport it. If you're going to buy it on your own or through insurance, and what type is best for you. You know, I really recommend that everybody touch base with a physical therapist. They have experience training. And if you have one already, they know you. You know, my therapist knows my conditions, and she was happy to sit there in brief moments because I didn't want to go back to a wheelchair. So she just gradually talked me into it so that I understood the importance of giving myself a break and relief for my pain. So that is the video for today. Let me know if there's anything else you wanted me to add to this video, and I'll be happy to do so. You know, think about yourself, what you can and can't do. And that's probably going to give you the answer of, you know, which wheelchair. But also get a wheelchair which you feel comfortable, you know, that you can adjust it, that you can move the arms out of the way so you can do transfers, a footrest that you can adjust if it's too high, too low. You know, I hate it when I see somebody all cramped up in a scooter. I saw that just the other day. This very tall man cramped up in this little tiny scooter. I'm like, oh, Lord. It's just... So, you know, it's like get something that is comfortable for you, that it fits your size, because if you're going to sit there for long periods of time, you don't want to hurt yourself doing that. So anyway, those are my words of wisdom. I'm hoping this is helpful. Feel free to give me a like or to subscribe for the next video or share the video, and that will help the channel a lot. All right, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.